Transfiguration Sunday. And I think that it may be helpful to explain just what that means, because I was raised in the Baptist tradition, and Baptists don't really follow the lectionary or adhere to sort of a common calendar except for Lent and Easter and Christmas. We share some scriptural texts and things, but for the most part, I've been here at Fort Washington for almost 6 months now. And there are some things that I'm still learning. I'm still learning how significant some of these events are in the life of the church and this church in particular. So like I said, I know what Easter is and Lent and Pentecost, but I didn't know the words Advent and Epiphany and Transfiguration. I knew those words, but I didn't know the significance of them. I didn't know exactly what they meant for the church. And this is after 3 years of seminary. So Advent, that's the 4 weeks leading up to the coming of Christ. It's a season of expectation and anticipation. Epiphany, the revealing of Christ as the Messiah. And the 5 weeks after that lead up to Lent. And then today, Transfiguration Sunday. Transfiguration refers to Jesus being transformed. And over the course of this sermon, I might use the word transfigured or transformed or changed. Transformed, having a radiant light shine from him. He was confirmed as the Son of God. It is an important story because it symbolizes Jesus' connection to God. It confirms his divinity. It also links him to the Old Testament, the law and the prophets, Moses and Elijah. So I like it that we can use some of our time together to learn together, because we are all in the same boat. Yes. We're all looking for a close relationship to God, looking to understand the things that have happened in the past and the things that are happening now that point us to God. And so as we review the 2 scriptures that have been read this morning, we see that there are some similarities. And these similarities are not accidental. I conferred with Reverend Kenneth Faith while preparing this sermon, and a colleague of mine from Union who I consider an exegesis expert. And exegesis is another fancy word for interpretation. I didn't find much as far as exegesis is concerned for this text, because I realized there was more meaning and symbol and symbolism in this sermon than actual trying to figure out what the Greek and what the Hebrew words mean. What I've discovered is that Transfiguration provides a link. We want that link. We need it. We depend on Jesus being the link, the symbol, the path, the key, that doorway to God. And we think we know what that encounter would be like. We think we know what it must have been like to have that encounter with God and emerge radiant. We all want to walk away with our encounters with God with a glowing face, with evidence of God's presence on our faces. Like Marianne Williams' famous poem, we want our light to be a beacon to others, to give others permission to do the same. In both of the texts that we've read this morning, Moses and Jesus have a profound encounter with God, and they leave with evidence of that encounter. But the truth is, there is a price to pay for transfiguration. There is a cost for close relationship, for intimacy with God. When we look at the Exodus text, we see Moses emerge radiant from his encounter, his conversation with God, with the 2 tablets, the 10 commandments. But if we back up and we read a little bit before the 34th chapter and the 26th verse, we see that this was Moses' second trip down the mountain. This was his second set of tablets, because he came down before. He saw Aaron and the Israelites worshiping and partying with the golden calf. He smashed that first set of tablets in anger, and then he had to go back up to the mountain, calm God down, calm himself down, and then he had to get the commandments transcribed again. So this radiance, this encounter with God comes at a cost. It comes after struggle and negotiation and frustration and sometimes even heartbreak. And if we read past Luke's 9th chapter, we can see the ultimate cost for Jesus for transfiguration. The cost for being the chosen one, the light, the one who shows us the way. There is a cost for transfiguration. So as I think of this first Sunday in February, I wonder about the significance of Transfiguration Sunday being also the first Sunday of Black History Month. Being transformed and being changed is a common theme throughout the Bible. And if anybody has been changed, it has been Black people. Snatched violently from our homeland, stripped literally and figuratively of our native languages, culture, and families. We've even got songs about being changed. I know I've been changed, and change is going to come. We've had to reinvent and cobble together a culture, a life, a family, love. We've had to reinvent ourselves. We've had to build a sense of belonging and worth in a world that still says, yeah, but, when we yell Black Lives Matter. Our encounter with this world has transformed us, definitely. But I submit to you today that this world has also been transformed by us, by our struggle, by our transfiguration. I submit to you today that Black History Month maybe isn't even really for us, but maybe it's for you. Maybe it's for you, my white, and my East and South Asian, and my Dominican, and my Puerto Rican, and my Mexican brothers and sisters. Because you have been transformed by us. And while I know it's not all for the better, I do believe it's been far better than worse. I mean, what would this country know about hypocrisy if we had not shown you that you cannot state in your Declaration of Independence that all men are created equal while you enslave an entire population? What would you know of social justice if we had not simply stated that I am a man, like the sanitation workers did in the 60s? Where would your activism and your moral outrage be centered if we were not still screaming in the streets that Black lives still matter? I'm wondering how whiteness would be defined if it had not been for Blackness. So we are bound together in this country like an arranged marriage, for better or for worse, in sickness and in health, until death do us part. So we better learn to get along. So the good news of all of this is that your encounters with others, my brothers and sisters, have made you radiant. They've transformed you. You know that there are spaces that you cannot go anymore because people will react in the same way that people did when they saw Moses' face, angry and afraid. You know, you can't discuss politics when you go home for the holidays, or when that crazy uncle comes over, because you have been transformed by your proximity to others, just by virtue of living and traveling and working and eating and worshiping with those who do not look or think or behave or love like you. I told you my hype man was here. Our encounters with others have changed us, I believe, for the better. But I was not aware of even my own ableism until I had classmates at Union who were struggling with the door that I found very easy to open. I didn't realize that the state-of-the-art campus that my son will attend next year is almost completely inaccessible to those who have walkers or wheelchairs. I didn't realize until I saw it, until I was in proximity to a young woman who had to precariously negotiate the steps that my son and I ran up and down since he was in kindergarten. So yes, there is a cost for you, there's a cost for us, all of us, for our transformation. And in our attempt to get along, and maybe because it gets weary to always be the one who has to be the standard bearer, who always has to be the stick in the mud, sometimes we may feel the urge to hide our transformation, to hide our radiance, to hide our proximity to God. You don't want everyone at the office to think you can't take a joke, so you don't say anything when the guy who thinks he's funny, but really isn't, tells a joke about his gay neighbor or the Flint water crisis. He put on a veil. Jesus' face changed while he was praying, but the Bible doesn't say whether or not he had the option to put on a veil or to cover his face. I would imagine, based on his knowledge of what was to come, that even if he could have, he wouldn't. Moses, on the other hand, hid his radiant face with a veil. He didn't trust the people to get over their fear of his wondrous encounters with God. They were afraid to come near him, but from the way the verse is written, it seems as if he was still able to talk to them for just a bit, uncovered about what God's plan for them was. And most importantly, he removed that veil when he went in to speak with God. Because God can see through any and all veils that we may be using to hide behind. The veil of busyness or anger. God sees through the secret shame that we don't even visit, even in our dreams. God sees through the lies that we tell ourselves and believe. I'm going to lose weight this year. I'm not going to spend so much money on lunch. From now on, I'm going to bring my lunch to work and save that money. God sees through all of those things. God sees through the hurt that makes us lash out at those we love the most. And the hurt that makes it difficult to look in the mirror and say, I love you. The thing that looks back at us. So take the veil off. Come to God like Moses with all your shortcomings and frustrations. God can handle them. Emerge radiant for all the world to see. And like Jesus was and is, remember that you are connected to a huge body of believers, past, present, and future. Be comforted by the fact that we are all in this together. Show the world how you have been encountering God through your relationships with those who are not like you. Your empathy and your understanding and your demand for justice make you radiant. So take off the veil. Amen. Amen.